This is an SM Media production. Hi, folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media Pro Wrestling Show. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. We are delighted this week to have a very special guest. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome the Source champion, Stone Malone. Stone, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Right, you're the Pro 2, is it inter-promotional champion? Explain just how that works. Explain your actual title of the championship you own.
So the Inter-Promotional Championship, this is what it is what it is essentially. Like, I could travel to other promotions around Scotland and defend this championship. I haven't had the opportunity to do so yet, but my first defence of this championship will actually be at a Pro 2 show next month, 23rd of October, Pro 2 Battle Lines versus Frank Cross and a wildcard entrant.
It's always a wee bit of mystery there when you say wild card entrant. Who are you fearing it not to be? Who do you not want?
Well, see, I don't know how to answer that because as a fighting champion, I'm willing to take on anybody.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that. I think as well. Obviously, we'll touch on your Pro 2 time later on, but there's a lot of good talent in that promotion as well. So you'll probably have some fierce opposition, but we'll touch about obviously your career later on and obviously the kind of promotions you've worked in. But we have some not announcements to make, but we have some kind of basically things that are happening in the world of pro wrestling. We're going to get your thoughts on them, Stone. There's a lot going on. We'll start with the card for Extreme Rules. It is coming together quite nicely, actually. There's some good matches to announce. Edge versus Finn Balor and an I Quit match. We also have the fight pit match between Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre and Karrion Kross in a strap match, and a really good, something I'm quite looking forward to, a good old-fashioned Donnybrook between the Brawling Brutes and Imperium. There is a lot of good matches on this card, actually. It's turning into quite a good show.
I'm looking forward to it, especially now that they're going back to what Extreme Rules used to be, where every match has a sense of a no DQ quality to it, because the last couple of years I've noticed there have been normal matches to put it on these Extreme Rules, and it doesn't really work if the show is called Extreme Rules.
Well, last year's Extreme Rules, there was only one match that had a stipulation, and it was an Extreme Rules match between Roman Reigns and Finn Balor. And now every match has got a stipulation, and obviously the year before, do you remember that? Do you remember the horror show?
Sadly.
I mean, with the Braun and Bray Wyatt, it was the Wyatt Swamp fight? Was that the one where he came out through the swamp and the water and things like that? And yeah,
I did enjoy that for what it was, to be honest. But the show as a whole was somewhat forgettable. But that match itself, that's left some memories.
But you've got this thing as well, as we've obviously got the Extreme Rules match between Liv and Ronda Rousey. There's a lot of matches that stand out, but I think we're going to see a wee surprise in this show because I think the White Rabbit is going to emerge. What do you think of that?
Oh, I mean, I could put my thoughts on it, but the thing is, I'm not sure what I think of it yet. Because, at first, I did initially think, oh, it's going to be the return of Bray Wyatt. But now I've been seeing all these different theories popping up on, say, Twitter, Facebook, just all the social media sites, from people noticing all the small details about it. And it's got me thinking, maybe it's not Bray Wyatt, maybe it's somebody else. I seen one the other day saying that it was going to be Edge.
Right.
But I don't know where this could come from. I don't know what a White Rabbit being associated with Edge would do, but
I
see what happens.
I hope it's Bray Wyatt. I'm putting my money on it being Bray Wyatt because it seems just out there, but it seems to be the report suggesting that it's going to be Extreme Rules. Also seems as well when you hear about kind of Bray Wyatt, they're focusing on maybe keeping him away from the title, which I think is the absolute way to do it, because Bray Wyatt is the Fiend. If he's coming back as the Fiend or whatever, he just looks weird with a title around his waist or going for a title, doesn't he? I just don't think it would work.
Yeah, like I did think that at first when the Fiend gimmick came around, like they put him into the title scene way too quickly.
Yeah.
Because it was the hottest thing
Oh.
as soon as he brought out the Fiend character.
Mm-hmm.
And instantly putting him on a title hunt against Seth Rollins, who was probably the hottest champion at the time. Like, they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then having the Fiend losing to Goldberg as well, I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And it was kind of obviously to do something with it. Was, I think the COVID situation changed all that, but how do you make Bray Wyatt? Because you've basically, as you said, he's had so many bad experiences. I know obviously under different management, but you mentioned the Goldberg thing, the Hell in a Cell thing. I've never understood. I still to this day don't understand what that was about. When he was obviously the kind of the Bray Wyatt before the Fiend, the kind of situation with John Cena, and then obviously just the Sister Abigail nonsense. How do you? I know he's good, he's brilliant at coming up with new stuff, but how do you make him a threat again? Because Triple H obviously is a new man. He will want Bray Wyatt. He'll want Bray Wyatt back and do something big with him, because you can't have Bray Wyatt in the third match in the card just against anybody, because you need to keep this character strong, because that's what he represents. He's a great storyteller, so have him in a story with someone you can build up, plus keeping Bray Wyatt quite relevant at the same time.
Yeah, like you said, his older stuff when he was the cult leader, like that, I always refer to it. Like I think that was his best work. Like the Fiend was great, but the cult leader Bray Wyatt to me was just something special. Like he had this following, not just like in wrestling, but like his quotes were literally being used on TV shows at certain points as well. Like weren't as remembered, but it was just those little things. I was like, this is genius. This man knows what he's doing. And every like big match that he had, he usually did lose, but he was always there. He was always relevant. He was always on the scene, because to me it was that way. It didn't matter if he lost, because that Bray Wyatt was winning in his head if he could get into his opponent's head. Like say the story with John Cena, like the whole steel chair thing, Cena thinking about it and Wyatt's on his knees begging him to do it. Like that, to me, that's the psychological win for Bray, whereas he didn't really care about the physical win. As long as it was in somebody's head, then he won the war.
Yeah. So another thing as well, obviously we spoke about this the past couple of weeks. Logan Paul, Roman Reigns, who you got? Who do you want to win? Who do you think will win?
Oh, that's a bit of an easy one. Roman Reigns, all day, every day.
Do you like it from a perspective of it's going to get a lot of people talking about wrestling? Because from a mainstream point of view, it makes a lot of sense. You've got this pay-per-view draw who's about his brother's about to get into a fight with Anderson Silva. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff to really get invested in this if you're not a WWE fan, because you've got, he's going into the WWE, he's fighting for the WWE Championship. This is a big deal. And I'm not saying he's in the same level as Mike Tyson, but remember Mike Tyson was a referee, brought a lot of mainstream guys into the crowd. I mean, that is obviously the plan here. So I think from a business point of view, this makes a lot of sense.
Oh, absolutely. Like, this was a conversation I kind of had with a couple of friends outside of wrestling. They're casual watchers, and they'll admit that, and they were asking me what I was thinking it. And I said the same thing. I was like, from a business perspective, it's genius, because it's going to bring in so many different types of viewers, and then people that are already watching wrestling or wrestling fans, they're going to chime in to see this match because like not a lot of people will admit Logan Paul is a good wrestler.
Yeah, he's done well. His 2 matches, he's done really well.
Oh, exactly. But I've always put that down. Like he is an athlete. Like he's always been involved in like say like amateur wrestling or boxing. You know, he was always involved in some form of sport. So that's how I think he took to wrestling so well because he just had that natural athletic ability.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it will actually be a good match. We're obviously going to do a wee preview of it before we actually see it. But AEW, a couple of news topics. Saraya, formerly known as Paige, has obviously made her debut. I don't know about this because is she going to wrestle? Is she cleared to wrestle? Is she going to take away from some of the youngsters that are building up? Are they going to make her a serious threat? There's a lot of questions here, but certainly from a surprise point of view, it was good to see her come out, and she did look really. She looked really good. She looked a lot like how she was when you had the same feeling when she debuted in Raw and won the title. You had that same feeling that she's going to come and be really high up in the division if she's cleared to wrestle. But if she's not cleared to wrestle, what are you going to do with her?
Yeah, like that's what I was thinking as well because I've not seen the full promo yet, but like the promo she cut when she returned on her second appearance at AEW, I suppose. Like the way she was talking, it seemed like she was building up to an in-ring return, and they announced a lumberjack match.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure if she's going to go the route eventually getting back into the ring. It's just a slow build to it, or if she's going to be kind of like, in a sense, like a general manager of the women's division.
I think that I wouldn't be against that because I think that women's division you have a lot of really talented women in it. Is there a structure like Jade Cargill's doing her own thing? I'm quite happy for her to stay over there and just build her up to be a beast. I think she's 38-0, which is she's brilliant. But you've got like Britt Baker, Toni Storm, Athena, for example. You need some sort of structure in there because you can't have. I mean, Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. They put Jamie Hayter they basically built Jamie Hayter up as she's going to turn on Britt Baker, and now she's just back to being kind of Britt Baker's lapdog. So you've took away that story. So what is the plan? Is there some sort of kind of way she can be some sort of manager? Because she did pretty well as a kind of general manager in SmackDown. She did. She was quite a good character, and she's a good talker. I mean, from at the start she wasn't, but she's slowly built that up. If they've got a plan with her, I think it could really work well. But they've got to have some because you can't have Paige or Saraya, as we know her now, just being there every week doing a backstage promo. She's got the credibility to be a big star.
Definitely.
And her in-ring return, I mean, a lot of people will watch that just to see her back in the ring if they're going to go down that route. I kind of would like to see what they do from here, but I'm delighted to have her back. She's really good, really underrated as well. It's good to have her back. But we also have a new Ring of Honor champion as well, the Ocho, which I think is genius. The whole thing of turning Chris Jericho into White Goodman is amazing, and it's only he could do that. But Chris Jericho is obviously a new Ring of Honor champion. There's a good wee story coming in here because obviously he beat Claudio for the title. He's having the hang with Brian. Danny Garcia's in the middle as well. There's a lot of brilliant kind of wee matches you can have against each other. Ultimately, it's probably going to be Garcia, Turner, and Jericho, and Garcia versus Jericho. What do you think of that? What do you think of the whole situation? Do you think making Chris Jericho the Ring of Honor champion takes away from the Ring of Honor heritage, or is that irrelevant because of what's happened? And you've got a guy here who can build that up pretty well to then have it kind of feature quite well.
Well, I think it'll build it up. Like there's no doubt that ROH title is very prestigious itself, but someone like Chris Jericho now holding it, it's just going to build the prestige even more because Chris Jericho was the first ever undisputed WWE champion, but it's also his accomplishments outside of WWE. Like he was also the first AEW champion, and I've always looked at Jericho as a guy who can reinvent himself.
Yeah.
But when he doesn't need to, like everything he does works. but it's almost as if he can sense something's getting a bit stale, and then he
Yeah.
needs immediately change, and he can do it like that. It is incredible the way he works.
And like you look at like the inner circle, that was only just over a year ago. He was doing that, and then you've went from I didn't like. I'm not a fan of the Wizard. Like I just think there's a bit of silliness about that. But now you're bringing the Jericho Appreciation Society. I quite like. I think I like the fact they've added Sammy, they've added like Anna Jay and Ty Conti, and I think that actually works quite well. But yeah, he's reinventing himself. I mean, I think he's doing better. He's done better work the past 10 years than he did before that. I mean, I love the heel Jericho when he was against Shawn Michaels, when he was wearing the suits, and that was a brilliant Chris Jericho. But give me recent Chris Jericho anytime now, because he's using his age as well. He's using his experience. He's inventing. He can do what he wants. I mean, and I thought as well, and obviously the CM Punk situation is something we're not going to touch on, but the way he came out at the end of that press conference and was just basically the calm head, he's so important to that promotion.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I really like that idea of him being there, because the Danny Garcia thing writes himself. You've got this guy who obviously loves Bryan Danielson, wants to emulate Bryan Danielson, but he's with Chris. So you've got this weird mix where you can get a couple of good matches between Jericho and Danielson, use Garcia against Danielson as well, and ultimately you lead towards Garcia against Jericho. Yeah. And then Bryan goes off and does his own thing. Yeah. That works to me, and that is the road they should go down.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential there, and I agree, it is the way it should go. Hopefully it is the way it goes, but again, wrestling is one of the things you can never really predict what's going to happen. We like to think what we can predict will happen, but I just hope they don't bottle this.
Nah.
The potential for so many good matches is there.
There's another thing I want to touch on as well before we get into talking about obviously your career and things like that. Did you happen to see a promo by Marina Shafir last week?
I've seen the Botchamania clip.
Yeah, that's enough. I don't want. I've never been a wrestler. I've never had to work with a creative team. I've never had to. But what were they thinking was going to happen with that?
I'm not sure.
That to me just doesn't make sense.
As I said, I've not seen the full promo, so I'm not entirely sure what way it was going. But all I know is for a brief moment, she was going, you know me, and then changed it to, you don't know me. So I'm not sure if it's like she's trying to change her gimmick, if that's what she was doing. Like she's trying to show off a new character of like, you think you know me, but really you don't know me. I'm not entirely sure what way going to go with that, but
the thing in the clip that gets me is that what if you happen to watch it, because Vicky Guerrero, God bless her, she's just there. She knows what's going on. She's like, God, let's just get this done, and she's just kind of standing there, kind of trying to kind of just watch it happen, but knowing it's nonsense. So she's kind of just standing there, just kind of this wee smile's coming on, and I felt for Marina Shafir as well, because she's obviously a work in progress. She's going to take time. That is one area they really need to work on, but they need to get to a point. I would never, and I'm not a wrestling promoter, but I would never have somebody out there who is so uncomfortable in front of a camera just making a fool of himself, because that's what we're talking about. We're not going out of way to make a fool of Marina Shafir, but we're talking about it in that way because it looked and sounded ridiculous. So I think a lot of criticism needs to go AEW's way for having that, letting that happen.
It's the same as well. Like I'm familiar with Marina's work, like in ring. I've never really seen her do promos of that before, so I've never really been sure if she has good mic skills or that. Like she's comfortable to talk, obviously, but I think it's a matter of what to say. Like, I'll admit it right now, I'm not exactly the greatest promo in wrestling. Sometimes if I'm shooting a promo, I need to do maybe 5 or 6 retakes to I get it right.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's difficult, but to do it live on TV in front of that many people, if you're not really comfortable with it, she should have let someone like Vicky Guerrero.
Yeah, and that leads to think, why is Vicky out there if she's, do you know what I mean? Vicky's brilliant at talking. She's done it for some of the best. Why is Vicky Guerrero just standing there, kind of trying to just put a face on, while one of her clients, I don't know what the storyline purpose of that partnership is. There's clearly some, but could Vicky not do it? How many times did we see Brock Lesnar just standing there looking menacing while this genius just stood next to him and just said what he just said everything, and Brock's just standing there just looking like a monster? Could you not do that here?
Exactly. Like, Brock can talk as well. That's his thing.
Oh, Brock's a brilliant talker. All you need to do is watch old UFC promos. Brock's a brilliant talker. But
if you don't talk, if you've got someone there to do it for you, use them to your advantage. Because there'll be times where, like, I'll always go back to Brock getting the backstage interview, and he goes, "Paul, say something stupid."
Yeah,
that's genius.
Mm-hmm.
That's Brock just showing his anger, and he's going to let Paul do the talking for him while he calms down.
Yes.
Money.
And yeah, Heyman's a genius at it, and Vicky Guerrero's good at it as well. So going forward, I think AEW should just let Vicky Guerrero just say anything, and book Marina Shafir like a monster, but do not give her a microphone. One more thing, ICW Fear and Loathing has been moved to the garage. Obviously, I think it's a kind of congestion issue. How do you feel about that? Do you think do you kind of also think that could be a brilliant case for atmosphere as well? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it could be good for atmosphere and just the crowd in general, because ICW did basically evolve in the garage like that. Mm-hmm. The garage was where it made itself big, and everyone, if they think of wrestling in Glasgow, and they know 9 times out of 10 they're going to think ICW. Mm-hmm. And only ICW they're going to think of the garage shows, because there's been so many great matches in the garage, and now with Fear and Loathing taking place in the garage, there's a chance for even more history to be made in that venue and for ICW itself. So I'm looking forward to seeing what can happen with this.
Yeah, I think it will be good as well. I think there's a weird kind of thing as well with the garage. You would think it'd be a drop down in terms of numbers, but I think there's this also, as you say, real crowd energy regarding that venue. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all. But we'll move on to talking a bit about your career and the business. Obviously, I imagine you would have grown up a wrestling fan. Who were your kind of influences growing up? What era did you grow up in, and what's your kind of favourite memories of growing up as a wrestling fan?
So, as a fan, I started really watching around the beginning of the Ruthless Aggression era. So my first memory of wrestling will always be, like, other than my friends talking about it in school before I started watching it. It was a day I was just flicking through channels as a kid, and I came across WWE SmackDown. I was like, "Oh, that's what my friends are talking about. Let me see what this is like." And it's Hardcore Holly and Big Show and a street fight. Right. And I always remember Holly swinging the chair with menacing force and just doming the Big Show with this chair. And the sound of that will stick with me forever. And that was the moment I was hooked.
And who was the kind of favourites growing up?
Oh, well, favourites growing up? I feel like I'm slightly biased towards SmackDown because that's the one I always used to watch. But yeah. I would say Brock Lesnar, Taker, Mysterio, Cena. Maybe Edge as well during like the SmackDown 6 period. Yeah. And then if I had to throw in another name, definitely Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. That was a brilliant time. That was the kind of time I started watching as well. You look back at that SmackDown 6, there was so many good matches, good every week, but with obviously one of the characters in it who we don't really hear about it as much anymore because of that. Like, it's not a period where you look back and like you see clips all the time because of who's involved, but they were great times. Like, you'd these 6 wrestlers always fight, like competing against each other, but you would also have, as you say, Brock Lesnar against The Undertaker. Brock Lesnar would then face Big Show. Do you know what I mean? It was just a stacked show, and I always preferred that to Raw back in the day. Absolutely.
Like Raw did definitely have his great matches back then as well, and a stacked roster of wrestlers as well. But just something about SmackDown, it was special. I don't know if it's because it was kind of like younger, newer faces, or if it was just a matter of it was like more pinged to the cruiserweights because the cruiserweight belt was there. So it was a fast paced wrestlers as well that just gets you instantly hooked as a wee guy. Like, oh my god, that guy's doing a million backflips, that's so cool. That type of thing. I'm not sure what it was, but just something about SmackDown was incredible.
And then when did it become a possibility that you could become a wrestler? How did that come about? And talk us through your kind of training days and getting into it.
So it was a day, just Saturday afternoon in the house, really. And my dad was reading the paper, and we saw in the paper that there was a local wrestling show in the Airdrie Town Hall, which was only like 10 minutes up the road for us. So he asked me if I wanted to go. I said, "Aye, sure," because I just started like kind of getting into the indie scene and I say the indie scene, like the Scottish indie scene, because I was just kind of getting into the American indie scene at this point as well.
Yeah.
And I went along to it, and during the halftime break of the show, they announced there was a school in the area, like a wrestling school. So I got home that night, pulled out my phone, I googled it immediately just to get the address and that. And then the next week, I went to training. But the first week I went, I didn't take part. I just sat and watched to see what it was like, just to see if it would be something that I would actually be interested in doing. And for sitting there for, oh god, what time did that start at? 11 to 3, I believe it was. I sat there and yeah, I just said, yeah, I'm going to give that a shot. If it's for me, it's for me. If it's no, it's no.
And training as well when making your. Do you remember your first match?
My first match. So my first match was 2016 at the All Saints Church in Coatbridge.
Right.
It was me and TJ Rage against 3 other tag teams. God, who were the teams? One of the teams was, oh god, I'm terrible for names. Hal Rayner and Scott Valentine, that was one of the teams. I can't remember. I know Krieger was a part of one of the teams, but I can't remember who his tag partner's name was. You know, sorry if he watches this and he's sitting there like, I do not remember my name. But and the other 2 laddies, I can't remember their names either. I'm sorry, it was that long ago. But yeah, Fatal 4-Way tag match was my first ever match.
And what's the kind of memories of the kind of early days of your wrestling career, like getting into building a relationship with the crowd, which obviously, you know, is massive. I think it determines how you go, but like getting into the grip of it, wrestling against experienced guys, learning off them, and obviously then kind of other guys coming along at the same time as you and going on this journey together. What kind of sticks out for your kind of early career?
So I tried to go to quite a lot of seminars, as you said, just so like I could learn off more experienced guys. But usually, like the first kind of matches I've done were like the academy showcases, essentially. So it was kind of 9 times out of 10 it would have been me against another trainee or teaming with a coach to go against a couple other trainees. So kind of that was also helping to learn as well, like say going against another trainee or teaming with a veteran, going against a veteran. But yeah, it was good to just get in the ring and just kind of get my reps in, essentially. And one of my other first kind of shows was a gala show.
Right.
And that was a different experience as well, because that's more reliant on like crowd work instead of like actual wrestling. So
yeah,
that was a good learning experience as well.
And then going into like getting, how hard is it to kind of get noticed by promotions at the time? Like, obviously, you'll have had promotions where you started really early, but obviously it's like getting your foot into the door with places, because there's a lot of promotions in Scotland in particular. But how do you go about getting involved, getting in touch with them, and kind of showing what you can do? Because that's always what's fascinated me. Like, how do you get booked in that when you're just kind of starting out in Scotland?
So there'll be occasionally, like say, a guy you train with, he might get a booking with a promotion, like with one that you've not worked with before. And if he's got space in his car, just ask us, or if I come along, show face, help out at this show or whatever, things like that. Just going to help at these shows, hoping the promoter takes notice, and then maybe you'll say to you, we've got another show in a couple of months. If you're ready, we can put you on with one of your boys, or put you in one of your boys, something like that. Another one is just kind of through year. So like my coach used to get me quite a few bookings just by talking to other promoters. And then he would maybe get me to come down to a promotion to show face, or if he just bigged me up enough to be like, right, we'll give him a chance. Like say for like charity shows or things like that. But yeah, it's usually just either through going to help out, or through like just someone kind of putting you through to someone.
And obviously the start of your career, the first few years obviously went pretty well. We had a little thing called COVID.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because I can imagine, obviously, you wouldn't have wrestled for a long time, but how hard is it to stay in shape? How hard is it to get motivated to get back after so much time off? Like that must have been for wrestling in particular, because wrestling's one of the very few things that rely so much on crowds and obviously keeping kind of in a good body shape kind of thing. But what was that like?
It was hard, man. There was actually a time during the COVID I was considering not coming back to wrestling, just because COVID basically defeated me in a sense.
Right.
Mentally, I was beaten because, as you said, I had to stay in shape. So I spend a lot of time in the gym as well. So with the gym being closed, everything being closed, essentially, it felt like I had no purpose.
Right.
Just kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to go back. Then some other stuff happened, and I had to go from my old school to train at Source Wrestling now. And yeah, I'm not glad that I decided to not just move school, but I'm glad that I gave it a chance and just said to myself, no, you've came this far, you might as well stick in it, try to make a career out of it. So just do what you can, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's I think it's smart. It's not smart, but like admitting that this thing that we're all going through, in different ways, beat you, because it beat all of us, and it was that kind of thing as well with wrestling. It's so reliant on like every weekend. I would imagine you probably want to get a wrestling show, go to a wrestling show, perform. When you don't have that, when you've literally got nothing going on, there's nothing else you could do. It must have been horrendous just to be so long without being able to get back into it. And you must have, as I say, that I think anybody would have had those kind of doubts that is this the right thing, because it was like, when's this going to come back? And you've got that added thing as well with the physical side of it. Like, must have been, I give it a lot of praise to you for actually like admitting to yourself that this is hard, because it must have been.
Yeah, well, I was quite fortunate that I kept in touch with a lot of the guys through wrestling, like say group chats or just messaging them what want to win or anything like that. Because a lot of them were going through the kind of same mental thing. I won't name names, but and yeah, a lot of them were thinking the same thing. Like they weren't sure whether they wanted to return. Always having the question like, "Oh, is it going to return? When are they going to be back?" You know, these kind of things. But I think in the long run, where like everyone who decided to stick with it and continue to wrestle is very happy that they have done so.
Yeah, absolutely. But when it got to the stage you could go back and wrestle, what was that like that first time when you went and you wrestled in front of a crowd and having that buzz back? Because that must have been a buzz unlike you've ever felt.
So my first match back was against Tom Billington for Pro 2's
Right,
first
okay.
show.
Right.
Yeah. Oh man. Like lacing up the boots, pulling the trunks on, putting the tape on, everything, man. I was so excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will admit, about 5 minutes into the match, I was gassing at my arse. I was like, oh, I forgot how tiring this was because I'd only been back like training for maybe a couple of months at that point, and my stamina just went. Oh my god! I forgot how hard this could be. So a lot of the time during that match, I was trying to keep away, like I'm gonna get my breath back, I'm gonna get my breath back, and then get back into it. But the buzz for the match, like before it, during it, after, it was amazing.
And you mentioned there obviously one of the Billingtons. Now, is it a weird thing with like guys like them, obviously, who've got big names, like obviously related to Dynamite Kid, big names in the business, but like I was even surprised like when they were like the Billington, the sons are the grandsons of Dynamite Kid, I think.
I've been told they're the nephews. I'm not sure, but I think they're the nephews of Dynamite.
But you see, like for that, for example, like they're wrestling in Anbank, and you just think like you would never ever think that. It's just this weird thing with wrestling, like the nephews of the Dynamite Kid wrestling in Anbank. But there must be a real kind of pleasure in that as well, because these guys will clearly be good at what they do and have that kind of technical ability. What would they like to wrestle with?
Oh, they were tough. Oh man, good matches to be fair, but they boys know their stuff, no doubt. But yeah, just being able to say that I've been in the ring with both of them, like Tom one night as a singles match, and then both of them the next night in a tag match. It was kind of surreal in a sense, like because I'm wrestling a legacy here.
Yeah.
Essentially, like one of the biggest family names in wrestling, and I'm sharing the ring with them in my first couple of matches, and like, God, how many days? Like 637 days or something. I went with wrestling, or well, my last match was before the matches with the Billingtons, and oh man, that was an experience.
See, like obviously as well, as you say about Pro 2, and obviously you've done a lot of work there, and the kind of we've had Logan on as well. It's like a promotion kind of gaining ground. What's it been like to be there from the start and see that kind of see a promotion come up from the bottom and just make its way slowly up and be a part of that?
Oh, it's been fun. Like Pro 2 have actually given me some of my biggest matches. Like this year, I've had two of the biggest matches of my career. Earlier this year, I went against Andy Wilde for the UEWA Heavyweight Championship, where he flung me a bit like a wet trackie. And then the double title match from August there against Sakib when he was then a promotional champ, and I was defending the Source Championship. So I'm very thankful for the opportunities they've given me, and it's been a pleasure to be with the company from the get go.
What about other promotions you've worked for so far? Like, what's been some of your favourite kind of times?
Oh, Source is definitely up there. Now, I'm not just saying that because I train there, but from my debut match with them, every match I've had has been so fun. My first match with him was against ADM, which I'm not sure if the match was officially titled Christmas Carnage, but we like to call it Christmas Carnage. And it was just so fun. Both his wrestling each other in Christmas jumpers, which was a mistake. But yeah, like every social I've been on has been great. All our promotions. I debuted for Mega Slam this year. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully, I can get down and wrestle for them again at some point. But I would definitely say Pro 2 and Source this year have been the two best promotions that I've worked for.
And kind of going forward as well, like what's your kind of ambitions going forward? Like, is it just, I imagine it's just for everybody, just get booked as many times as possible, go to new places, travel the world, because that's what wrestling's about. Like, is that obviously yourself? Is that your ambitions going forward?
Yeah, like basically, I'd like to be known as like I don't want to say a household name, but like a name,
Yeah.
not just the UK, but like around Europe. So, like hopefully next year, I'm hoping to debut in a couple of different countries or just different promotions. Like I've been looking at some promotions in like say Northern Ireland, Scandinavia, more promotions down in England. So hopefully next year, if I can get the opportunities to do so, I'll happily compete for any and every company that's out there.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing more of you in the future. We're going to close on the quick fire round. Are you ready to be put on the spot?
I'm ready.
Right, very quick fire round. So, following questions. Favourite match so far that you've had personally?
Versus Taylor fight at the Source Show in February this year.
If I was to give you 3 dream opponents, who would they be?
AJ Styles, Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels.
3 people in the Scottish scene that you would start a faction with?
Andy Wild, Caleb Valhalla, Big Demo.
Very good, that'd be a great faction. Favourite match you've ever saw on television?
AJ Styles versus John Cena, SummerSlam.
Very good choice. Dream arena to compete in. Where would you like to? What arena would you like to wrestle in?
Madison Square Garden.
That's the same answer for it that everybody gives. It's a very good one. Gives another one. Gives a stadium.
Stadium. Hampden.
Hampden. That's a good one. And favourite wrestler in the world right now?
AJ Styles.
And if I was to give you a contract for WWE or AEW, where would you sign?
WWE.
Very good. Stone, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on the show. Thank you very much and all the best for the future. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully I'll see you down the road.